Caregivers, have you ever felt like nothing is going right? Well, cheer up and welcome to Dave, the Caregiver's Caregiver radio program, where you'll learn how to avoid that dreaded thing called caregiver burnout and how to survive the grieving process. Join Dave and his guests now as they share practice tips and tools that you can start using immediately to help get you through this day. Now, here's your caregiver host, Dave Nassaney.
From Los Angeles and New York City, the Big Apple, and a big LA. Welcome to all my listeners out there in Radio Land. I am Dave, the Caregiver's Caregiver, otherwise known as Caregiver Dave at caregiverdave.com, along with my lovely co-host, Adrienne Gruberg at thecaregiverspace.org. Hi. And we're coming to you live and on demand 24/7 on 18 global audio and video platforms, including iHeartRadio, iTunes, YouTube, Spreaker, SoundCloud, Vimeo, Stitcher, Blog Talk Radio, Mixcloud, Listen Notes, Blueberry, Player FM, Podcast.com, VIP Internet Radio, TuneIn, Facebook Live, HealthyLife.net, and CaregiverDave.com. And we're so proud to be voted #1 caregiver podcast of the top 50 on Player FM and one of the top best 6 podcasts by Caring.com, as well as #3 podcast out of thousands on Caregiver podcasts on FeedSpot. And we have an exciting show planned for you today, don't we, Adrienne?
I hope so.
Me too. We had a guest that did not work out, so once again, my favorite show is just her and me and her. Adrienne and Dave, the Adrienne
Kicking
and Dave
it
show.
around.
Yeah. Talking shop, talking about caregivers, talking about each other, talking about life, talking about being seniors and talking about being senior caregivers and talking about being senior after caregivers and moving and just anything that comes to our mind. And just a reminder, we want to thank last week's guests, John Haggerty and Janice Butler, who are owners of Your Soul's Toolbox, where spirituality and psychology converge. And you can see that interview or hear that interview on many of our sites. And just a reminder that you can go to caregiverdave.com and get some free gifts by just clicking the Get My Free Gift button, or you can join by clicking the Join button. It's very simple. One-stop shopping. It's all there, years and years of content. And likewise, Adrienne's site, caregiverdave.com.
Years and years.
I was going to say caregiverdave.org. No, it's the caregiverspace.org. Years and years, longer than mine. You were one of the very first caregiver sites, weren't you?
I guess one of them.
Caring.com was.
Caring.com, caregiving.com. I mean, and
you had a different name in those days, didn't you?
The Caregiver Survival Network we started with.
That's still on a lot of search engines, too, which proves nothing ever goes away on the internet.
I know, it's unbelievable. But it was a mouthful. It wasn't catchy. I didn't like it at all.
Who came up with it? You? Doesn't matter who came up with it. It's gone.
I mean, yeah, I guess I came up with it, but I wasn't happy with it ever, and I wanted to change it. So
we learn. Life is a learning experience.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was talking to you. I got this little thing in my throat. It just won't.
You too. Okay, so we'll both be clearing our throats someday.
Excuse us. We're just a couple of old farts trying to talk here. Speak for yourself. Sorry. So let's see. I'm going to go over here to caregiverspace.org. And what a nice site it is. You know? It says right at the top, you've got some, my mom has cancer and I take her to appointments. Well, that's something a caregiver would say, right? And my girlfriend has celiacs and I cook healthy meals for us. So that's another thing that a caregiver would say. My brother has schizophrenia and I don't know how to support him. Now, that's a tough one. make sure he's on medication. My brother has a TBI, and I help him every day. So I'm assuming that these are actual comments by caregivers.
Oh,
My
yes.
roommate has chronic fatigue, and I tried to. Well, I missed that one. My dad had a car accident, and I moved home while he recovers. So sooner or later, you're going to come across a line that's me, and that's the idea of her site. It's just a great site. She has spent a lot of money on this site and a lot of time, a lot of hours. And then below that, there are pictures of people. I should probably share my screen, huh? That'd be a good idea.
That has
I could do
links.
that.
You know, I mean, those
I'm
the
going to share my screen.
pictures. If you click on the picture, it
Desktop.
takes you to
Share
the
the
article
screen.
and other articles.
Can you see what I see now?
Yes.
My picture's not in the way, right? That I can see.
Nope.
Oh, good. So let me back up then. So here's her home site and all these things. My uncle, boy, this thing just keeps going, doesn't it? My
Yes,
uncle
it
has a drug
does.
addiction. I take care of him. My
See,
fiance.
that's the thing about the caregiver space. We do not concentrate on elder care. If you look at all of these problems that are at the top of the page, it's all about all the other things. Yes, there's always dementia and there's always Alzheimer's. And here, I'm looking, my abuela is 96 and I moved across the country to take care of her. So we do address elder care issues, but there are so many others, so many other issues. And we're here to listen to stories, hear stories, tell stories, give feedback, help. It's
Yeah, and then you come down to what does a caregiver look like? Well, they kind of look like these people. They just look like everyday normal people. And I see I'm going to share this this Facebook Live with you on Caregiver Space, and that way whoever's on there can see that as well. And so, yeah, they're young and they're old and they're men and they're women and they're boys and they're girls. I mean, how many? I think 6 million caregivers under the age of 18. Is that unbelievable? From 8 to 18. We only count the ones from 8 to 18, but I bet there are caregivers younger than 8,
I'm sure that there are
They're not
kids
legal.
under 8 whose lives are heavily impacted by siblings and grandparents, whether or not they have the responsibility for the care. Their life is being impacted, and they're certainly learning about care and how, and in many cases, they're making other people's lives better just by being there and being a kid and happy.
Yeah. And I mean, my picture should be up there because I'm just a guy who one day, his wife had a headache, and then she had a stroke.
Yeah.
And then she had lost her speech, and then she was paralyzed on her left side, right side, sorry about that, the good side, or the bad side. Look at it. So then you have opportunities. Here we're talking about Generation X, Y, Z, sorry.
Yeah.
Here's a Generation X, Y, and Z, right?
Yes.
So who were the Zs? When were they born? Oh, it says right here, 1 in 4
Millennials.
It was Generation Z we're looking at on your site.
15 to 19.
15 to 9. Why does it say 1 in 4 Canadians? Are we in Canada?
Well,
with this site?
Corey is living in Toronto right now, and she's really in
Canadian
touch
now.
with a lot of people
Yeah,
in Canada. Um, I mean, Donna Thompson's in Canada.
yeah.
Uh, and
Canada's a legitimate country. We
it's
embrace them. We share a 3,000-mile border with them,
yes, we do.
and the same Interstate 5 that
Without a
my gas
wall.
station is on goes straight to Canada as well. Goes all the way down to Mexico.
I mean,
So 15 to 19. So
the
they're the
issue
teenagers.
of Gen Z
Mm.
is definitely a valid issue. You've got these kids who help someone, and their grades may suffer, their time at school may suffer, their applications, certainly the finances at home may suffer,
Hmm.
and you
It says right here
just,
they put their future careers
yeah,
at risk, study shows.
yep,
And 1 in 4 Canadians aged 15 to 19 helps someone with challenges resulting from illness,
hmm.
disability, aging, etc. Wow, that's
Now, if you click
25%.
on that, there's
That's
a
huge.
whole article.
Yeah. And who writes these articles? Well, it just says right up there, doesn't it? Who
Some
wrote
of
it?
them, when it says external article,
Okay.
it's something that was found somewhere else that we got permission to
Mm-hmm.
post.
And then you have some in-house articles that maybe Corey writes, or maybe some other people, or maybe
Corey,
some other
Bob
caregivers.
Harrison, and me. Yeah,
Oh, Bob Harrison, I remember him. We interviewed him one
yes.
time. He's a great guy.
Bob is a gem also.
Mm-hmm.
Um, he very diligently monitors the site uh, in the evening hours and overnight hours.
Volunteer, I
Yeah.
assume.
Hmm?
Volunteer.
Uh, Originally, he was a volunteer,
And then he
but
started
he
working so
was
hard.
spending so much time
Yeah,
and
that passion,
just
you know.
it is and it's not just a passion for him. It was sort of a lifesaver. I mean, after
Mm-hmm.
his wife Annie died, um, he wrote a book, and then he tried to post articles or become a writer for several different
Mm-hmm.
sites, several different organizations, big organizations, and want they didn't want him writing for them. Not because he can't write, but
Yeah.
because he tells the truth. Um, he paints a very real picture of what it's all about.
So, what
And
category are his blogs in? If someone wanted to read them,
death and dying,
death
after
and
ca-
dying.
after after caregiving, cancer, um, spousal care. I mean, he
Uh,
really, I, as I do, um, he has a great deal of niches that he fits into, a great many
mm-hmm.
niches. Um, yeah, you're passing one. I don't want to be my husband's caregiver. Now that's one of those interesting things. Um, so what do you do? Sometimes,
Nobody wants to be
sometimes
their
you could,
husband's caregiver.
well, I wanted to be my husband's caregiver, but
Really
yeah, I couldn't
hard.
imagine it any other
Were
way.
there days that you didn't?
No.
Wow, you're
Yeah.
amazing.
No, I'm not
Even those
amazing.
rough days, those hard days, those days where you were pulling your hair out and
The rough days,
Were there hours that you didn't want to do it? Were there minutes? Were there
Oh,
seconds?
there was certainly minutes. I mean, the whole thing with him started with an emergency room visit, and he had peritonitis, and he had a temporary colostomy. So that was a
Mm.
lot of fun. And then the colostomy was reversed, and he had 3 lung surgeries. I mean,
Uh-huh.
it's complicated.
Yeah.
Caregiving is complicated because
Yeah.
you
Like you
want to
say, there's
do it.
many faces of care.
Yes, Spaces of Care is my my pet
Really?
because I believe that there's one degree of separation between anyone and a caregiver.
Yeah.
Everyone knows someone
Sure.
who is caring for someone. It's not 6 degrees of separation or 5. Everyone knows someone.
Oh,
Um,
so it's hashtag faces of care. So let's see
so
what
it's
happens when we go
hashtag
there.
face. And people,
Yeah. Encourage people to post on
yeah,
Instagram.
yep.
Wow. Apologize to the audio people who cannot see what we see, so we'll have to
Oh,
be
yeah. So
very
we should be
visual.
talking about it.
Yes.
Our grief may not end, but our worlds grow. And that's where I am. I mean, I don't think, I think that I'll be grieving forever. The grieving changes, but it's certainly there. I mean, I lost my husband, and there are so many
6 years ago?
reminders. At this point, let's see, 8 years
8 years.
and 8.5 years now.
It
But
gets easier with time.
it gets
Easier.
easier with time. But the fact that it says, but our worlds will grow. Um, I knew that this is what I was going to create the caregiver space.
Hmm.
Sitting in hospital waiting rooms and watching other caregivers. Uh, I just, I knew that that was what I wanted to do. So I had a plan for when Steve passed.
I see.
Um, and of course I was taking care of his mother as well.
Hmm.
And all I could say about that was both of them had cancer. Um, I just prayed that at 92, 93, she passed before he did because I knew what life would be like for me if I was taking care of her and he wasn't around.
Hmm.
I saw it was like a vision that I had. I saw in my mind. I imagined at the funeral that she would jump into the grave, top of the casket,
Oh,
because
that's scary.
that was the relationship that they had. And
A real mama's boy, or is that going a little too far?
no, Steve lost the vision in his in his right eye,
Uh-huh.
and the the number of surgeries that he had um, added to how much she worried about him. And Jewish mothers are hovering, uh,
Hovering, huh?
yeah, hovering, as well as confrontational. So it's a good thing that I got along with her as well as I did. Uh, but the tension between the two of them, we wouldn't have had her not move in with us
Uh-huh.
because the care that she would have received at the hospital in Brooklyn was not up to our standards. And we did have room for her. So we had her move in with us. And the there in the back of my loft, there's a space that can be walled off that has a Murphy bed and closets, and so she moved in there and was very comfortable. Um, and I mean, there was no reason for it not to work. But the two of them would sit in Steve's office, she at her computer, he at his computer, back to back for hours
Mm.
playing games. This was not my life. I have never gotten into computer games. I play word games, but that's like just to keep my brain healthy.
I love the titles of some of these blogs. I'm in the aftercare section. There's 10 rules
Yeah.
we can learn from aging parents now. Stop telling me to be grateful. I'm a caregiver. Can That's funny. Can love sparked at Burning Man last in everyday life? Can love spark? What does that mean? Can love sparked at Burning Man last in everyday life? Is that proper English? Is that a typo?
Yeah. Burning
Explain.
Man is, the event. So can love spark that this event last in everyday life?
Okay.
Will it survive?
1 month, no schedule, no internet, no electricity. Picking up the pieces after the person you have been caring for dies.
Mhm.
Yeah, some people just go into depression because that's their identity. They're just so wrapped up in it, and they
Yeah,
can't.
and
Some
they're
of them can't get out of it.
depending on how long someone's been taking care of somebody else. Um, there can be a huge hole in their lives. I mean, this vast chasm that was filled with medication and lists of how, what had to be done and doctor's visits and hospital visits and, changing diapers and changing the linens and, there's so much that you have to do
Yeah,
that there's a hole in your life. And when people don't know how to fill it, if they've given up their jobs, um, if they're of retirement age, it's very hard to sort of pick up the pieces and go on to something else. Um, that's why I was lucky that I knew what I was going to do. I would really be sort of lost. I would probably have just continued painting and
yeah.
doing my artwork. Um, and I was, I am I'm a real artist. I'm not just a hobbyist.
Yes, you are. I was over your house and I saw your stuff. It's very impressive. So,
But I've never had a
congratulations.
show and I've never sold anything, and that has to do with my shyness. So,
Yes.
so
So,
although most people think I'm very outgoing and very energetic,
yeah, but
I'm
we know
very,
better, don't
very
we?
shy, very introverted.
Well, let's take a break for this introverted person, and we will be right back. Don't go away. Dave Nassaney, the Caregiver's Caregiver, has just released his sixth book, entitled It's My Life Too. Reclaim your caregiver sanity by learning when to say yes and when to say no. It was specifically written for caregivers who know they should be putting their needs first, but just don't know how. Dave is the sole caregiver to his wife, Charlene, since 1996. He knows firsthand what caregivers are going through, because he is one. And he now speaks all across the country, offering caregivers his incredible caregiver support package. Even the airlines tell us that in the event of an emergency, to put your oxygen mask on first before you help your child with their mask. They know that those who don't heed their advice often black out, thus becoming unable to help either themselves or their child. And caregivers are exactly the same way. It's My Life Too. Reclaim your caregiver sanity by learning when to say yes and when to say no. Will help caregivers who are neglecting their sleep, diet, and social life, and learn to put their needs first. Pick up your copy today, or buy one for your special caregiver. On sale everywhere, and at caregiverscaregiver.com. And we are back with the Caregiver Dave Show with Adrienne Gruberg. I'm Dave Nassaney, and we're talking about the caregiver space and Adrienne Gruberg, and just kind of trying to figure out what makes her tick. And it's very interesting, the life of a caregiver, because they come in so many different sizes, shapes, and some people do better than others do worse than others, and it's because I think a combination of things. Number one, their temperament. Wouldn't you agree, Adrienne? Their temperament has a lot to do with how they handle caregiving. How prepared they were has something else to do with it. And what kind of care receiver that you're taking care of. If it's a spouse, that's one thing. If it's a dementia patient, your mother, that could be something else. If it's special needs child or special needs adult, there are just so many different stories that one size does not fit all. That's the experience you have also found, Adrienne? Yes, I lost Adrienne. So she'll be back. So all I can say is, from my experience and my website, caregiverdave.com, and from my Facebook page, Dave the Caregiver's Caregiver, with 35,000. Adrienne has 165,000. So, sometimes a post will get a huge reaction, and sometimes it won't. And what is very interesting is that, I'm going to go to my page now and let me see here. This was very funny. They put a picture of a little infant and it says, "Don't worry, when you get old, I'll feed you carrots too." And that is so true, because, we start out as an infant needing care, needing mush to put in our mouth because we have no teeth, and diapers because we've lost, we don't have control of our bowels yet. And then we get older, and our parent is our parent and we're the child. And then they get a little older and then things start to reverse. The child becomes the parent becomes the child. The parent starts losing their teeth. They need to eat mush also. They need diapers because for some reason they have lost control of their bowels. And you can really tell how good of a job you did on your child by how they treat you as a senior. I tell this story all the time. There was this old guy. I have a gas station, and he came in, and I say he's an old guy. He was probably in his 50s or 60s, but he had his 80-year-old father follow him in without him being aware of it, because he had told him to stay in the car, I guess. And when he realized that his father was standing behind him at the cashier counter, he just lost. He started yelling, "What are you doing here? I told you to get back in that car." And he was just giving him the riot act. And everybody in the gas station convenience store was looking at him, just realizing, wow, what a jerk, the way he's talking to his father that way, whether he's disabled or elderly or Alzheimer's, whatever it is. Everybody requires dignity and appreciation and respect. They brought you into the world, And who was right there listening to all of this is this man who has lost his temper, his son. His little 8 or 9 or 10-year-old son. And he's just listening. And I say, my gosh, when this man is 80 years old, how do you think that little 8-year-old is going to be treating his father? Probably the same way. So be careful what you say, because you just never know how things are going to turn out. You know what I mean? So I wonder where Adrienne is. Anyway, as I was going down here, it says, be patient with patients who are patient. No, be patient with patients who are not patient. And then another one, what can you do to live without regret and to help your loved one fulfill their dreams? But I wanted to come to the one that got a huge, huge response. And here it is right here. In just a couple of days, it got 43 likes, two comments, and 17 shares. But I got one even better than that one. But this one that I'm talking about, life becomes easier when you learn to accept an apology you never got. Boy, that struck a nerve, huh? A lot of people commented on that and shared it. But then there's one that got an even bigger response. It's caring is being there even when you want to be somewhere else. You see a common theme in this? We're kind of being honest. We're saying what people are thinking, right? The apology you never got, right? That you keep it inside, becomes bitterness and resentment and all of that stuff. Or you want to be somewhere else. Well, I can't think that I would be a bad person if I thought that. Well, you know, sometimes you don't want to be there. Sometimes you want to be somewhere else. And being honest about it, I got 103 likes on that one just in a few days, 7 comments, and here's the amazing 51 shares. 51 people knew someone who needed to hear those words. Caring is being there even when you want to be somewhere else. And, I'm guilty. I wanted to be somewhere else. So here's some of the comments. Yes, total devotion. Here's another one. So true. Another one. Yes, every single day. Another one. True, that's me for sure. Another one. Being there for them, that is love. Yeah, love and sacrifice. So, as many of you know, I'm on the road. I'm doing stuff, not necessarily for caregivers because I'm speaking, stages, and I may not be speaking to caregivers per se, but I'm speaking to people who know caregivers. And so I tell them what I do, and I share with them, the statistics that 30% of caregivers die before their loved ones do. According to Oh, she's back. How'd you get back? I thought you gave up.
I'm back.
She's back.
I kept trying.
Well, while you were gone, I was talking about different things, but now I'm talking about how I'm on the road so much, and I'm not really doing things for caregivers per se because I'm talking to audiences that maybe there's no caregivers in the audience, but I'm talking to people who know caregivers, trying to raise awareness of people who know caregivers. And I'll say things like, hey, everyone knows a caregiver. Help them out. Offer to, go grocery shopping for them. And just do things because you just might be saving a life. And then for the few that actually might be in the audience, I said, you might be saving your own life. Because you might become a caregiver tomorrow, even though you're not a caregiver today. I mean, on August 31st, 1996, I did not know that I was going to be a caregiver. Like the next morning, within 9 hours, like those people say, gosh, if I knew I was going to live this long, I would have taken better care of myself. Well, if you would have known you were going to be a caregiver, maybe you would have learned more on what to do, how to take care of yourself, some books to read. I'm going to go see our oldest living president in December, President Jimmy Carter, the only president in the world who has brought peace to a Middle Eastern country and to Israel. That's a big deal. Even if it was only one nation, Egypt, and it cost Mr. Sadat his life because, he's got a lot of enemies. But you know what? Today, 5 decades later, there is still peace between Egypt and Israel. That was one of the nations that surrounded them in the Six-Day War and the Yom Kippur War and tried to, push them into the ocean. And that peace almost didn't happen. They had given up again and again and again. And I read the story, and it was just a quirk. And he went back one more time, and he says, you know what? Carter was talking to Sadat. He says, wouldn't it be great if we could tell our children that you and I, each of our children, that you and I were responsible for peace in the Middle East? And he thought for a moment, I'm sure he thought about his children, because who do we cherish more than our children, right? And immediately he stopped thinking about the hatred toward the Jews and toward the Arabs and trying to satisfy his constituency and the thousands of years of challenges that have been between these two people, and he thought about his child. Maybe he was 8, maybe he was 12, maybe he was 3, maybe he was still in his wife's womb, and
maybe he was 30.
Yeah, and he thought about the future of Egypt, and all of a sudden he broke down and he says, "Let's do it." And Carter couldn't believe his ears, and so they did it. No one else did it, but they did it. And Rosalind, who you said started the, I was trying to remember the organization she started.
The Rosalind Carter Institute.
The Rosalind Carter Institute. And what do they do there? You're going there soon, aren't you?
Yeah. Well, we're going to try and solve the caregiver problems of the 21st century. And I think
the same as the caregiver problems of the 20th century?
Well, they'll only become worse. There'll be more.
That's right. The good news is there's better technology to handle it.
Yes, but hospitals are sending people home more than they used to. And although people want to die at home, the problems of caregiving, you will need more facilities to take care of people who cannot live at home. And then you'll have the people who live at home and are not being subsidized in any way or getting help in any way from the government. And there have to be new solutions. This is an issue that's not talked about by politicians very much. I don't think in any of the even in the last election, there was not one question in a debate or on the campaign trail. No one talked about caregiving. No one talked about the caregiving crisis. And that's what this is going to be about.
Well, I hope that I'm able to speak to her about that, give her my book, and let her know that I'm on the face of the globe, and maybe we can start a relationship. Who knows?
Yep.
But I'm meeting an awful lot of people, and my goal, I've told you this before, is to talk to Congress, no matter who's controlling them, and to talk at the White House, and to just let people know the plight of the caregiver.
Same here.
Just like everybody knows, well, we should do it together then.
Well, you see, I think because Rosalind Carter was a first lady,
yes,
she has
a lot of awareness
a voice that has a lot of weight to it.
Yeah, and she's the one who first started saying there's 4 kinds of people in the world. You're a caregiver, you're going to become a caregiver,
right.
You're going to need a caregiver. What's the 4th one? Whatever it is. I always say there's three, but she magically came up with a fourth one.
Four.
But it had something to do with the past tense or future tense or present tense.
What was it?
I think it's you are going to become a caregiver, you are a caregiver, or you're going to be a caregiver, and then
Or
you're
need.
a caregiver. Yeah, so that's the four things. And so she was probably saying that back in the 70s, 70s, 80s. But I'm fortunate I'm going to see her. My wife isn't happy that it's going to be on December 21st and December 22nd, just a few days before Christmas.
What's the occasion?
I don't know what the occasion is, but those are the dates that I told. If you want to meet Jimmy Carter, that's when you can do it. So, I'm going to have to fly out of L.A. to Georgia to Atlanta first thing on the 21st, and then rent a car and drive 2 hours, I'm assuming to Plains, because, that's probably how far Plains is from Atlanta. And then they're going to throw a little holiday party that night, because probably they feel bad that we're so far away from home, so close to Christmas. And then the next morning, we meet Jimmy, and the president, I should say. I should be respectful, and hopefully Rosalind, because he did this once before, and they were both there, so I hope they're both going to be there again. And so then that evening, or that afternoon, I hop on a plane. So it's just a 48-hour turnaround. I did that with the publicity summit that I went with you on, and it's hard, 5 or 6 hours. You say 5 or 6 hours on a plane, but it's really more. You got to get up like
to get
1 or 2 hours in advance.
Right.
You got an hour on the freeway. You got to get there 2 hours. So just let's say 10 hours on a plane one way and 10 hours on a plane. But, it's worth it. It's President Jimmy Carter, 95 years old, just had a birthday, the oldest living president ever that has ever lived that long. And so how can I say no?
He was on the news today because he had an accident.
Oh, no!
That
Is
put
he
him
okay?
in the hospital. That put him in the hospital. He's got a terrible black eye, and he's got, I think, 14 stitches over his eye.
My God.
But
that's my worst fear,
that happened yesterday.
Something would happen to him before I get there on December 21st.
Back building houses today.
Of course he is. And I was building houses.
He would not take it easy.
I was building houses with Habitat for Humanity, the same organization he did. We were in Coahoma, Mississippi, a dirt poor Mississippi town that, there was dirt everywhere. There were no paved roads, and there wasn't a McDonald's or a 7-Eleven. There was a little what looked like a lemonade stand where they were selling, cans of soda and Doritos.
There's like a gas station
like
and a little tiny general store, and that's it.
We built houses for these people. I think we built 4 of them when I was there. And Charlene came. This was before her stroke, and it was the first missions trip that the people on the trip actually came home, gained weight instead of lost weight, because Charlene was doing the cooking.
Well,
I like Jimmy Carter. I voted for him.
You did.
I know maybe he wasn't the greatest president, some would say, but like I said, he was a good man.
Good man.
He was an honest man, and he said, "I will never lie to you," And we were used to Richard Nixon and Gerald Ford, who pardoned Richard Nixon, and it all just smelled bad, And we needed a breath of fresh air, and he was just a humble, down to earth peanut farmer, and the country needed that.
With good values, and
but then we had
good sense.
Double-digit inflation and the Iranian crisis, and the gas shortage, and things just started spiraling out of it. He didn't have a chance.
He didn't.
Yeah.
Which is unfortunate.
And then Reagan the cowboy came in and pulled a 6-shooter out, and he fixed everything. Well, listen, let's take another break, and then we got a real short segment to finish up on. So we will be right back Please, please don't go away.
One Arm, One Leg, 100 Words, Overcoming Unbelievable Hardships, is about Charlene, a stroke survivor. Back in 1996, Charlene was a healthy, normal, very active 52-year-old woman whose amazing talents resemble that of both a Martha Stewart and a Wonder Woman. But all that changed when she suffered a massive stroke that left her severely speech impaired and paralyzed on the right side. Everyone who knows Charlene is thoroughly amazed at how she lives day by day, month by month, year by year, and with a smile on her face and hope in her heart that everything is going to be okay. Just hear what best-selling author Lynn Barrington has to say about it. If you think you have it bad, read this book. This is a beautiful, genuine story told from the heart. It's inspiring and easy to read. When you finish this book, you'll be able to look at your concerns in a new light. One Arm, One Leg, 100 Words, Overcoming Unbelievable Hardships. Available everywhere.
And we're back on the Caregiver Dave Show. I'm Dave Nassaney. This is Adrienne Gruberg, and we're talking to each other. And I just wanted to say again that, I've been doing a lot of celebrity stuff and appearances and TV and all of that stuff. And, some people might ask, well, what does that have to do with caregiving? Have you forgotten about us?
Everything.
I have become a celebrity in certain circles, and in order to get invited to the White House, I think you need to be a celebrity. They're not just going to, they might, but, the more credibility, the more ability to be able to speak in a crowd, the more likely that you will be. And I don't know, maybe you'll be invited before me, and I hope you drag me along, or maybe I'll be invited before you, and I promise I'll drag you along. And,
all right.
we don't know how it's going to happen, but I really believe it. I can see it in my mind happening because, I've spoken at Harvard, I've spoken at Carnegie Hall, I've spoken at NASDAQ, I've spoken at all these places, 25 TV shows. White House, no big deal. That wouldn't get me nervous. Well, maybe a little.
The only thing that would make me nervous about it is that I wouldn't have enough time to say all the things that need to be said because it's such a broad topic. No, it is just such a broad topic. And I think a committee of people who are addressing things from different different points of view.
Committees take longer, don't they, to listen to things, I would hope?
Well, I mean, if you pull together a group of people we are internet people and media people, but then there are the people who do the work in hospitals and discharge people and palliative care, and who really know about a lot about caregiving. The social workers at, let's say, Sloan Kettering. It's just so deep. There are so many levels to it, and that's what I hope to hear in Atlanta. Is a lot of different points of view.
Were you invited to that?
Yeah.
And what facility is it in? Some auditorium? Or
Rosalind Carter Institute.
Oh, so that's in Atlanta, huh?
Mm-hmm.
As opposed to Plains.
Yeah, no, that's not in Plains.
Plains is Atlanta 3 times. I should have checked it out, I was very close to the Georgia Dome. Is it close to the Georgia Dome?
I have no idea.
Is it in downtown Atlanta?
What, the Rosalind Carter Institute?
Yeah. Or is it off in
probably
a suburb
between sort of downtown.
Mm-hmm.
It's not. Atlanta is so spread out.
Well, maybe the next time I'm in Atlanta, which is on December 21st, I don't think I'll have a lot of time, but maybe I can drive by it.
But you'll be with them.
That's true.
You will be with them.
So it's definitely not a 2-hour drive, right? So we must be going somewhere else, from Atlanta. 2 hours. I should look on the map and see at 60 miles an hour, 2 hours, that's 120 miles from Atlanta. See, what the heck is 120 miles from Atlanta? that has to do with Jimmy Carter. See if it's plain. See if it's his house. Wouldn't that be cool if it was his house? I don't know if it
Wouldn't
is
it
or
be
not.
cool? Yeah.
Wouldn't it be cool? So I don't know too much about it. I'm on a need-to-know basis, so I'll let you all know. And then the 24th, I'm going to a cancer fundraising red carpet gala and after party with
That's
MC
wonderful.
of the Late Late Show, someone in your neighborhood. I think that's filmed in New York, right? James Corden.
Yes, that's in
Karaoke.
California.
Oh, is it? Yeah, I guess it
Yes.
is. Karaoke,
Yes.
carpool karaoke, whatever it is.
Carpool karaoke.
And his most famous one of taking Paul McCartney, driving him around his neighborhood in Liverpool. And I didn't even know who the guy was because I don't watch the Late Late Show, but I knew who he was because I saw it. Like three different people showed it to me. Hey, have you ever seen? No.
There are a lot of them that have
And
been
there are
put up
other
on
stars he's
YouTube.
done. Yeah,
Oh, tons. I mean,
yeah. So,
the one with Lady Gaga is amazing.
and I like him.
Um,
I even watched him when I was in my hotel room in at the airport at the Rockstar seminar. I stayed up late and I watched him, and I like him. You
he's
know,
very
he's
talented.
not political. He's just funny. Everybody else has got to make political jokes. I says enough. Just make me laugh.
Johnny Carson was
Yes, he
never
was the star.
topical.
Yes,
He
yes,
was
yes.
never topical. I
But we're
mean,
not in
I
Kansas
watched.
anymore, are we, Toto? It's a
No,
different
I mean, I
time.
remember the night that John Lennon died. Like I figured maybe the next night or something. If they taped it, and then the next night he would somehow acknowledge it. Never brought current events into his monologue. It was just entertainment, pure entertainment, no point of view. He was
Anyway,
brilliant.
that's why I like him. So I'm going to be interviewing him, maybe get a picture with him. And what other stars? There's got to be a lot of stars there if it's a fundraiser, cancer fundraiser
You
of
would
some
think
kind.
so.
You would think so. Everybody wants to be his friend, so I'm sure there'll be a lot of people there. And I will have my film producer, my documentary there as well. They're trying to get a ticket for him because let's face it, I'm an interviewer, I'm media. I need my cameraman with me, right? And it's all going in the documentary. And I'm
How
saying,
long do
oh,
you think your documentary is going to be?
I don't know. He doesn't know. He says he does them, and wherever they go is where he goes, and however long they take is. And when it's finished, he will know it's finished. He doesn't
So
plan it.
this is a documentary on you?
On me and my life with Charlene, and he believes that it's going to be about 3 lives, and that he just mixes them all up and tells them one at a time in order, in turn. And
Hmm.
so at the event I brought him to, I think he found his second person because she's an amazing, amazing woman. And she was on my show. I was on her show. She had a traumatic brain injury,
Uh-huh.
and she's just miraculously doing all these amazing, amazing things. More amazing than me. I mean, because she lost her memory, and she was like 10-second Tom on that movie, 50 First Dates, and it just all came back. And she still has her limits. Every now and then her brain just says, "Okay, that's enough. I'm shutting down now."
Okay.
I was talking to her and during dinner, and all of a sudden she says, "Wait," and then she says, "I got to do something," and she went out. She was gone for like 15 minutes, and she came back. She said, "Okay, I'm good now." And she later told me, "No, I know when my brain's about to shut down, and I have to go sit somewhere and just,
Collect herself.
recharge,
Yeah.
And so that's his second story, I believe. So he's looking for a third story, and so he's going to work on all 3 stories, and he's going to enter it into a film festival.
That's good.
And I mean, I don't know where God has taken me. He just opens these doors, opens these opportunities. I get a phone call. "Hey, I was invited here. I can't go. I'm in Philly. Would you go in my place?" And I was always told, just say yes to opportunities.
Just say yes.
Don't, figure it out later.
Hmm.
And that's what I do. And let's face it, I'm no spring chicken anymore, and I want to die on an empty tank, where the wax in the candle is gone, and They can put on the tombstone all used up. Don't want to leave anything on the table.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, you know. And then I will be ushered into the next life and, you know, and all that goes with that. Some people don't think there's anything after that, and I feel sorry for them. But the way I figure it, it's like a Las Vegas crap table thing, you know. If you're wrong, you got a lot to lose, you know, by living a good life and believing there's a God and you know, doing all of that stuff. But if you're right, I should say if you're wrong, it's no big deal. You just lived a good life, you know, and okay, the lights go off when you die. At least you lived a good, happy life, because people who live a good life are happier, and their children are happy. You know, people who are lying and stealing and cheating, you know, they're always in trouble, and their kids are lying and stealing and cheating, and it's just strife.
But they think they're happy.
Yeah.
Because they're filling themselves up with stuff.
Yeah. And then the other side of my gambling analogy is, and if you're right, then hey, that speaks for itself. But you've got nothing to lose and everything to gain, you know. Or you actually may have a lot to lose. So I say that to all the people out there who just, you know, the people who just don't know. Well, I just don't know what's out there. You know, I got to prove it. Well, I guess that's what faith is. You know, when I sat down in this chair, I believed, I had faith that this chair wasn't going to collapse under me. So we all have faith in something, you know. All right, enough of that. Look, we're out of time. And so I would say thank you for coming on the show again. I don't. We must be in our third year with you, I think.
Oh, more than that.
It seems like. Oh, really?
Yeah.
I'm going to get the exact date next time and see.
I did give you an exact date.
Yeah.
At some point.
Because we started before the videos, right? We were still doing audios, I believe.
No. We were doing videos.
Really? So you never did an audio, it was always a video.
I always did video with you.
Okay. Well, I know the early 2 interviews I did with you may not have been video.
Okay.
Those were just interviews. Okay. Well, that's interesting. I'll look that up because we should celebrate an anniversary that's coming up or something like that. Have an excuse for a party or a cake or something. And I think, you know, we've done about half of the Publicity Summit guests that we spoke to, about 45 or so. We're just going through the box. You know, half of those people never called back, but that's okay. I'm going to call them. But they broke the number one cardinal rule. You call back your producer that you booked with within 4 to 6 weeks, or it dies, you know. But
absolutely,
it's not going to die for us because we're still talking about caregiving, and nobody fired me because that's the problem with producers. You know, they have promoted or get fired or they quit and they're moved on to something else, and your contact is gone. Now you got to start all over again. And so these people aren't very smart to not keep in touch with us, but that's okay. We're people of grace. We will keep in touch with them. So we've got about 20, 22, 23 more of them that we still have to interview, which will take us probably through the other half of the year.
And there were some people that were supposed to call me. And
they didn't,
Pooja,
right?
Pooja was fabulous. Is
she the only one?
She's the only one that followed up and called me.
Yeah, well, good for you, Pooja. And so I say, you know...
And she was special.
Yeah. People complain about not being successful, but they tell me all the time, 90% of success is what? Do you know the answer?
Showing up.
Just show up. You know? It's like even you get a moving violation that you feel like you were cheated on. Most people say, oh, you can't fight City Hall, screw it, you know. But you know what?
Fight.
There's a 50% chance that police officer will not show up, and you did, and guess what? Ticket dismissed, boom. And so just show up. And with that, I will bid you adieu. So long, farewell, auf Wiedersehen, goodbye.
Goodbye.
And you. Next time, we'll see you all. Love you, Adrienne. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Caregivers Caregiver radio program. with Dave Nassaney.